Good evening, good evening. How you doing? My name is Irma J. I'm giving you part two. We were talking about Sarah. She had a long wait and she took matters into her own hands. And we were talking about God said she's gonna have a son. And Abraham is 100 years old and Sarah is 90. And I say that God waited on purpose, to show his power in miracles that nobody but him can produce a baby in a woman old age. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, after I am wore out. Now she's saying she wore out, she waited a long time, and she said, "Will I now have displeasure?" So but God had a plan to bless Abraham and Sarah, with their very own baby. A plan to bless the world through their offspring, Isaac, would be the fulfillment of God's promise. That plan was worth waiting for. Now Sarah had laughed the response of disbelief. Now when she hear God that she predicted that she will have a child because they both in old age. Now she figured they both in old age. She rolled out, and now God said she's gonna have a baby by this time next year. She thought it was funny. But then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh? Why did she laugh? You know, I really that she really will have a child. And now that I am old." She said, "Well, really, I'm going to have a child now that I'm old." So God awareness of Sarah's thought, and laughter, which may have been evidence that he was in a human form. Remember it was three guys at the entrance gate. And one of them is saying it probably was God in a human form. So Sarah had lack of trust in God, because she waited a long time. She was fed up. She took matters into her own hands. And so when God did tell her she's gonna have a child, she took and laughed. She had unbelief, and she had no trust in God. And she thought it was funny by she being old. She like, how God gonna put a baby in me? But God is the one that create the babies. So if He want to put a baby in you at that age, if you say you want one, it will be done. So anything is too hard for my Lord. One of the guys said, anything is too hard for our Lord. I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Now he said she will have a son, and the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as she had said, and the Lord did Sarah what He had promised. He promised she was going to be a mother of the nations. I mean, she had to have a child. So He made that promise fulfilled. So the son of Sarah and Abraham, after many years of waiting, God fulfilling this, in keeping His promise. To get Abraham and Sarah despite of their old age. So God was planning on fulfilling the promise. Okay, if He said she's gonna be the mother of the nation, God was waiting on purpose so she can get old to use His power. To put a baby in her at the old age. He gonna do it to Elizabeth too. So Sarah become pregnant and she bare a son to Abraham in his old age, at very time that God had promised. He said by this time next year, just like He said, she had become pregnant. Now, who could have believed that Abraham would have a son at 100 years old? And he also lived to raise the child. So he died at 100-something years old. He had Isaac at 100 years old. He was able to raise Isaac until he got fully grown. So that was incredible. So God did the impossible. Only Only if she would have waited and not took matters in her own hands. So she got tired of waiting, and she want to take matters in her own hands. You know, uh, so matters in her own hands. Now, the big problem won't seem so big, and impossible if we let God handle it. And I'm talking to myself too. We have situations, we got trials and tribulation, and we get tired of waiting. And that's why David said, wait on the Lord, and he will come true. But some of us get impatient of waiting, and we want to take things. Now she thought she was helping God. She had Sarah to do it. Sarah had, Hagar had the baby, and she said, now we fulfill the promise. You can't fulfill God's promise that He have upon our life. So Sarah said, God had brought me laughter. And everyone who hear about this will laugh with her. Sarah believed her story will bring joy to others. It will, at her age. Now, just because they both were old and Sarah laughed with unbelief, God's fulfillment of His promise came to pass. So God turned her laugh into laughter. The promises was worth waiting for. So she had to wait a long time. So that long wait, it was worth waiting for. Because God made that come to pass. She was a mother of the nation. Isaac was the promised child. And he brought in another promised child, was Jacob. So Jacob's family was the Israelite. So she got tired of waiting. And I know I'm in the waiting period myself in isolation. So we have to wait on the Lord. He give us instruction to move in His direction. And not take matters into our own hands. Because she took matters in her own hands, and it didn't do her. It wasn't worth it. Because she was back at square one again with no baby and had to wait on God, to depend on God to give her the baby when she thought she was going to have a baby. She thought she did something. But Hagar said, oh no, I'm keeping my baby. I'm raising my baby. Then she began to be jealous. And they had left. It put a rip between those two. And Abraham caught in the middle. So a lot of time when God give us promises, sometimes it take a long time. Look what David. He promised David was gonna be a king. And he been anointed since he was a child. It took 20 years. Took Joseph 20 years to be. But God gonna always fulfill His promise. He don't need our help. And it's talking about you got to do something, No, we have to wait on instruction from God to see what direction we have to move in. Sarah couldn't wait. She couldn't wait. She had to take things in her own manner. She looking at her body, no pregnancy. She looking at her age. Every year she making her birthday. She said, well, why is taking God so long? Okay, I'm going to help God out. We can't call ourselves helping God out. Because you see, that didn't work. She still was at square one with no baby. So we have to wait on the Lord. We have to wait on the Lord. I know sometimes it takes a long time. But in the mix of you waiting, you got to build up your faith. You got to keep your hope alive. And be patient. That's hard. I'm in it. I know it's hard. It's not easy. I meditate and I dream to keep my hope alive. And you got and keep your faith. Keep your faith going. We don't want to make the mistake that Sarah did. We just got to wait on the Lord. And a lot of time in the Bible, like Sarah, it's mistakes. We supposed to learn from their mistakes and don't do what they did. Her mistake was she took matters in her own hands because she got tired of waiting on God. we see that you have to wait on God because things is not going to go your way because you want us to be in a fast speed. You want us to be in a microwave speed, and on it, and then and see, sometimes we in a long process. We get desperate and anxiety and we start questioning ourselves. And after we start questioning ourselves, then we start questioning God. Because she said, if I'm the one to bring in the promised child, and so, and why God taking so long? So when we get in that stage, still I search the scriptures. I search the scriptures and have find a situation that what you're dealing with that can help you get knowledge of them scriptures in the Bible, and dream and hope and keep your hope alive. You know, just because you're in the waiting period, you can be reading and getting knowledge. You know, and they didn't have the Bible then, but she still could have got connected with God. She could have got connected with God and get answers, because that's what Joe did. And because we start questioning ourselves, I know I did it many times. I'm just not trying to get in alignment or stop questioning myself and start having negative thoughts. So I'm working in my inner self. And that's what you have to do when you're in a long process, because you're going to start questioning yourself, you're going to start questioning God, and we have to work on ourselves, and you have to be patient, have a strong faith, and you have to keep your hope alive, to keep going and wait on the Lord. And he will come through. We see he came through. She wanted to laugh with unbelief, but God turned her laugh into laughter. He gave her that son that he promised to give her. Now she was the mother of the nation. God's promise was fulfilled and it came to pass. So that's all I have for you today. Wait on the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Because if you don't wait on the Lord and do it your way, you're going to be at square one. And then you're going to have another church, but to wait on the Lord. Because you tried to do it your way and it didn't work. So that's all I have for you today. Wait on the Lord. And I'll see you on the next video.